Welcome to the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast with your host, Mike DeHaan and Dan Austin. From wins, losses, horror stories, and tactics for optimizing your business, Mike and Dan take a real, uncensored deep dive into the ins and outs of running a full-time real estate investment and wholesaling business.
What's going on, everybody? It's Mike DeHaan and Dan Austin here with episode 7 of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast. We've had quite the week, Dan. I'm still trying to play catch up a little bit from everything that's gone on. We're in kind of a really interesting space in the business right now because I feel like, you know, as we do the marketing, it's always sort of like projecting out the opportunities that are gonna come in the future. But at the same time, when you're dropping $10,000 to $12,000 on marketing, you're just like, I hope it comes back. And then 4 weeks later, 6 weeks later, it's not quite coming back yet. And you're just like, well, I guess I better keep spending this money. But then we're in this position right now where we dropped a huge amount of money in marketing, like August, September timeframe. And it's all come around. And each week I'm always like, oh, we're starting to taper off a little bit. But then, you know, this past week we got, I guess, 1 or 2 confirmed signed deals. I guess we got 2 confirmed signed ones, and we currently have 4 that are really strong potential, which might have actually been signed around, but our acquisitions guy didn't do a CRM updates like he was supposed to. So it's highly possible that we have 4 signed contracts and I just haven't heard about them yet.
Wow.
So if that's the case, we got 6 more on top of our month where we just finished. We got like 12.
Yeah.
So what's just that? I mean, here's the crazy thing. I was looking at our numbers and I was like, okay, so from the whole year to October, I actually don't know the exact number, but we're at like, basically we've gotten 2/3 of that number in like the last like 6 weeks. So we've almost equaled like our entire year's worth of contracts in the last couple of months.
Okay. Yeah. So say that again. So most of the year up until October.
Yeah.
And then October to now, which is like 6 weeks, we've actually almost meet that number.
We almost met the same number, almost the same. So we've almost like doubled our tally in the last 6 weeks. So
it's been it seems like a slow growth, like month over month. And then all of a sudden, like just rocket ship, you know, because we had to figure some stuff out, like employee transitions and things like that. And then all of a sudden it's just like this slow progression. And then now it's like straight up.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a few things to that as well. Like I've been trying to speculate why that is because, I mean, we're in the holiday season. Thanksgiving is next week. Christmas is coming up. Generally, it like starts to get a little bit slow.
Right.
But I think that, I mean, one of the challenges over the spring and the summer was that, you know, the market was just a absolute rocket ship for everybody. I mean, people were throwing up these shitbox houses all over the place and getting over like market value, like retail value for a fixed up house for their major fixers on the MLS. And I feel like now a lot of the people that we're working with, they like probably were kind of waiting that out to sort of see what they could get for their house. And now they've waited too long because we have several properties too that got listed over the summer but didn't sell. And now we're buying them for significantly less than they were listed for because like basically the situation that people were trying to escape, be that you know, foreclosures or tax liens or whatever, they're all sort of coming to fruition now. And they're starting to get penalized for them, especially since the moratorium's lifted and the, you know, the city is now pursuing people that have these tax issues. So all of a sudden, like these problems that people were able to either escape from with a, you know, unhealthily hot real estate market, or due to the government restrictions on how to penalize people, all that's now gone.
Right.
And so,
it's a waterfall.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I think that just our consistent marketing, that's the other thing too, is a lot of these people that we've been getting these past couple of weeks, I was looking at numbers and most of them we've mailed like 6 or 7 times. Right. And since we mail every single person every single month, that means that we started hitting them like March or April, back when things were super hot. So they've been receiving our stuff.
Yep.
And it's just like now it's at the tipping point for them where they've realized that, you know, they've probably waited too long or they're unable to get out of the situation they've got themselves into. So it all just, but I mean, I think that's just shows the importance of being consistent in your marketing, right? And even going into the holidays, a lot of people, they think, oh, the holidays are going to be slow. Maybe we should slow down or do something like that. But it's like, no, you ramp it up, because people are starting to like make year-end decisions. Your competitors are maybe slowing down. And even if you have to do like delayed closings, like we're doing stuff right now that isn't closing until January, which is out about 6 weeks. But, then as soon as the new year turns around, that's almost a better place to be because you have some action happening right away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like any other business, right? With marketing, like it's just consistency. And it is surprising how many people are not consistent with their marketing.
Yeah.
And even including us in the past, we've kind of been inconsistent in certain areas or changed things around. And now that we've been doing it pretty solidly this year, I would say, especially since like the springtime, it's paying dividends.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that was an intentional decision we made, though. And even going to the meetup a few weeks ago, that was kind of the biggest difference between those of us that had various, deals being done on a regular clip versus those that had a lot more ebbs and flows, was how consistent we are. And one of the reasons we were able to do that is because we have a team built out that's working everything. But even then, if you look back to, March, April, May, we never quit marketing. I guess like April through July was kind of our weird period because, we suddenly had a change of staff. So we didn't have an acquisitions manager anymore. So then we were working the leads, but we weren't quite like committing to them as much as we needed to. So we ended up with this backlog of stuff, and honestly, we probably shouldn't have. Well, like if you looked at it from a standpoint of, where our finances were, we shouldn't have necessarily been spending money on marketing. But we made the decision to do that knowing that we were going to be bringing on somebody else and we wanted them to be walking into a backlog of opportunity. Yeah. Right. But I mean, because we were spending a lot of money with very little coming back in.
Yeah.
But just to keep that pipeline going. Right. Yeah. And not only like on a month-to-month basis, keeping the leads coming in, but also too, with those same people, keeping that brand awareness where they're like, okay, so we have this branded piece of marketing that we got in, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and everything has our logo on it, has our business on it, has our website on it. And eventually they get enough of those and it stands out. Now when shit's starting to hit the fan, it's like, okay, I guess I better call these guys. They've mailed me 8 times now. They are serious.
Yeah. Consistently, not like the random ass, I don't want to say any names, but I get them sometimes too. Like every sporadically throughout the year, they just show up my mailbox. I'm like, oh, good try. But right. If you have that, a lot of these people are getting tons of mailers, but yeah, which one has been here every single month? Because I'm going to think that person wants to buy my house.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then having like the follow-up process and everything else too, once people come in, because we've gotten a lot of people that called us over the summer and we weren't able to get something figured out. Just because they were like, oh, the market's so hot right now. And now we have them under contract for some of them even less than we initially offered them.
Wow. That's awesome.
Because we've seen the turn in the market and we're like, well, it's getting a little scary now. Like, I don't really want to be paying you that much anymore. And, but they've just sort of seen the turn as well. But it's interesting times with all that. But one of the things as well that, as we've sort of started to dive into these different opportunities, which I think has been a little bit different, is analyzing like just sort of like the different exits and strategies for handling a lot of these deals, which is sort of, I guess, maybe created more opportunities as well. Because we're looking at things a little bit differently than we have in the past. Like right now we have a lease to own that we're sort of setting up where we have this property that has been kind of like a constant headache that we don't really want to be necessarily dealing with all the time. So we're selling it to one of the tenants on like a lease to own with like a 5-year option. Yep. And in doing so, to secure that, he's paying us basically the equivalent amount to all the money that we have tied up, plus his rent, plus the other unit's rent, the duplex. In return, he gets to collect the other unit's rent. So his payment basically stays the same. But then with the structure, our cash flow stays the same. We pull out all of our money and we're no longer obligated to maintain the property because I guess it's part of his contract. He has to. I mean, I guess if he doesn't, that'll bite us in the future.
And because we're still carrying our own note, we're still getting principal pay down on it.
Exactly. We're still getting principal pay down. Plus we're getting the tax advantages of owning it, but we're able to pull out all of our cash and maintain our cash flow and reduce our effort. So we got that. And then we have some other ones that we are going to be closing on in the short-term financing deal that we just got with these 2 funny little houses that as we look at them as like long-term rentals, they don't really make sense for us, but it's like, well, if we can sell those on like a lease to own to somebody that wants a home, and basically needs to get into a property and is willing to settle for like a smaller property. I'm sure we can structure that to be making similar to if we rented them without having to deal with the headache of like, maintaining those properties, which are outside of the zone of like everywhere else. So like it's super out of the way for us to manage.
Mm-hmm.
And then also too, like the kind of people that would rent these properties might be a little bit of a headache.
Yeah, they're
right?
not like terrible properties. Like they're somewhat maintained in like some fashion, right? But one needs some they both need some capital work to make them really great, but they're so small. It's like a bungalow and then like they're both bungalows really, a 1-1 and a 2-1. But it's a cool setup, honestly. And I mean, even there could be other exits too, like find another investor that wants that. Well, hey, I want 2 properties next door to each other. Perfect.
Yeah.
Right. But definitely being able to exit, but maintain cash flow and get the equity difference that we're buying them at. Right. I mean, that's huge value add.
Well, exactly. And I mean, that is one of the things is if you're looking at those ones in particular from like a fix and flip standpoint, it's kind of difficult because those would be difficult properties to sell traditionally, especially with the amount of work needed. But we got those with a seller contract, seller carry on them because they own them outright. So we're buying them for $210,000. Market rate's probably about 300-ish for these 2 little houses. I mean, both of them for 210. A $20,000 down payment. But then the key is we have a fixed payment amount of $875 at 0% interest, right? So that means that for every month that the tenants are paying us, and we're using that to pay off our seller finance mortgage to these people, $875 of those is going towards our bottom line when we go to exit from these properties. We go to pay off these people.
Yeah, which is awesome.
So the total, complete return, if you look at the cash flow potential, plus the principal pay down with no interest, plus the tax depreciation, plus the spread that we have on the equity when we bought it. I mean, even though like that's the great thing about investing, especially the way that we do it, where it's off market, we take these janky little houses that wouldn't provide an opportunity to the average person, and we can make them a pretty badass investment opportunity.
Yeah. I really like that. And typically I don't think about like everybody knows about your principal pay down, but when you're looking at an investment from like an ROI standpoint, like you're not like factoring that necessarily into your numbers. It's there, but it's kind of conservative to be like, yeah, that's just kind of the sugar on top, because as the market changes, it goes up and down, that could, the ROI with the principal pay down could change, right? Depending on your exit, timing of your exit. Sure. But like this one, I think about it like 875 towards principal, 0% interest. I'm like, well, that, in the way we're exiting on it, like that's $10,000 a year additional in cash flow. It's just going towards the sellers, right? And so then when we do that full exit, it's like, say it's 3-5 years from now, I mean, that's 50 grand right there.
Yeah. I mean, more than that. So at 5 years, our balloon, it's just south of 100 grand. It's like 90 grand straight to principal. Because if you look at how a bank amortizes a loan over 30 years, they front load the interest, right?
Yeah.
So, if you had that on like a bank loan, the first few years, it's going like 90% interest and like 10% principal. So like in the same situation, our interest would be, like let's say with 875 payment, our interest would probably be $800. Our principal would be $75.
Sure. Well, and just because I'm a neurotic weirdo, like they don't front load the interest. It's just that 3.5% of a larger number is a lot more interest than
that's true,
than a lower number, right? And so, I mean, just to be correct, but
yeah, that is true.
Sorry,
that is true.
But no, everybody thinks that way because that's what it feels like, right? Like, it is front loaded, technically speaking, and which is good when you're the bank, right? But it's really just because it's the bigger number times the percentage, right? But either way, it's badass to have a 0% interest loan with a cash flowing property. I mean, we could be like, hey, we're going to take the cash flow and just let these things ride, right? And we're going to be making all this money. But from an exit for our management and our larger picture of where we want to go, it makes more sense because it looks the same to us as renting it, but we're just going to sell it in a non-traditional way. Yeah,
definitely. But and those ones too kind of sparked an interesting conversation that I don't think a lot of investors look at. I mean, I feel like most investors that we know, they either look at things from like an immediate return Like they don't like looking to flip it, they're looking to wholesale it, they're looking, at the immediate cash on cash, or they look at things from like a super long-term outlook. I can't tell you how many people I've met that are like, they won't buy a property to keep if they're not interested in keeping it for 30 years.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's kind of a weird place to be because you miss out on so many opportunities. So that sort of brought us to the conversation of like, okay, so we have all these properties that we've bought. I think, joint, we're going to be up to 10 actual physical properties, like 20 something doors, just like that we share. Plus, the stuff that we each own individually. And, looking at things of like, okay, what properties do we like as like legacy properties, right? That, we keep in the family, you put in a trust, you give to your kids, whatever. And what properties are kind of like a, I don't know, 7 to 10 year play? What properties are like a 1 year play? And looking at the different, potential return and what makes sense for those. And like, whether that comes down to future maintenance issues that you see, future neighborhood growth that you see, just like this type of people that will be drawn to a property or neighborhood, if that's worth dealing with for the long term, because there's lots of properties out there that you can deal with them for a couple of years and, it sucks, but you're going to make, 70, 80% ROI or more than that. So like, that's worth the time, but you don't necessarily want to do that forever. You don't want to pass off those headaches to your kids.
No, yeah. And like, I mean, if you're calling yourself like a real estate entrepreneur and you're not looking at ROI versus ROE versus your cash on cash, all the different metrics, and then like optimizing them, you're really not an entrepreneur. You're just kind of like buying properties. You're an investor, right? And you're investing in a different strategy. But like we talk to a lot of guys and know a lot of guys that like this is what they do full time, but they're not really thinking about that. They're just thinking about, well, if I accumulate these and pay them down and do this, this is how much it's worth. Like that's great, but you are, like you said, you're missing out on a ton of opportunity if you can reposition that equity into something bigger, something more optimized, maybe even too. Like that's the goal, right? Like build your base and then find things that are progressively easier to manage and continue to give you a fantastic return for your money.
Yeah, absolutely. And not feeling like everything needs to be forever or needs to be immediate.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different mindset. And I think a big part of that too kind of comes from like a lot of the traditional media and coaching and things like that revolving real estate, where they're like, find your niche and make that your, what you're the best thing at. And I'm always kind of in the person is like, well, sure, that's a good way to be really safe, I guess. But I'm almost like, if you do like a bunch of stuff, like 75 or 80% as well as like the best person, you're still going to do pretty freaking good, and you're going to have a lot of opportunities. So like you look at our stuff, we have long-term rentals, we have some short-term rentals coming up, we do flips, we do wholesales, we have some things that we rent like to the state that are like they're not Section 8. I don't know what you would necessarily call it. They're subsidized
part of the properties. Disabled. What is it called?
Yeah, people with disabilities.
Exactly. There you go. That are on state funded disabilities type things. They're on, long-term disability and they're disabled, developmentally disabled.
Exactly. But that's like a different structure with how you have to design the house and that sort of stuff. We're going to have some lease to owns coming up here. Now we're starting to get into positions like we're looking at potentially doing some like partner flips and like, hard money sort of stuff where like we can profit on those other ends of the deals, so we can still get the opportunity for like the end position of the deal without having necessarily put in the work for it. Like we have one that we're looking at right now with somebody who was like, hey, we'll front the down payment. You front all the money for the rehab and you go ahead and fix it up and like we'll help guide that, but we don't have to put in any of the work, and then we'll split the profits 50-50. For like a newer investor that like doesn't necessarily have the wherewithal to get started or get a loan, and we can facilitate that. So, and those are all different niches, I guess, that people could like specialize in. But instead, I guess we have like 12 different niches. So we just create opportunities from different scenarios.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, I call them like, they're like arrows in your quiver, right? Or different levers to pull depending on where you're at. And it's great to have multiple arrows in your quiver because that's how you can not miss opportunities, right? Or it's like, hey, we're too maxed out on this. So let's see, we've got this new guy that wants some help getting into the business. So let's partner with him. He can do all the work and we're going to split the profits. Like that's perfect for us if we have too many flips going on, but we don't want to miss an opportunity or just wholesale it off for, half the profit. Right. So I like that.
Well, even then, right, that works out pretty well because we can sell it to him on a wholesale fee and front load some of the money. We can carry the down payment amount, right, and then he brings the rehab amount, and then we split the exit, and then he'll make, you can list the property at the end. We can get a commission there too.
Totally.
So, it ultimately makes more money, and then it gives him the opportunity to make some money while also getting an introduction to the business at like potentially lower risk. Because worst case scenario, right, for us is he completely fucks us over and we have to go and pick up the project and do it anyway. It's like, yeah, it sucks, but we're at least in a position to do that.
Yeah.
And then for him, like worst case scenario, I guess is, I don't know, like he decides that he hates it and he wants out, but he can just walk away and then we'll just take it over anyway.
Yeah. He's
not tied to a
what do you call it? Like, it's like you're limiting your risk, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times when you partner, if you're doing it right, you're limiting your risk to a certain amount because now you're splitting the effort, splitting the cost, splitting kind of the debt, all that sort of stuff. And so for a new person getting in the game, like that's like a perfect opportunity, right? If you have experienced folks that are like, I'm willing to work with you, and like folks like us, because like we have deals. It's like, hey, I want to be on your, we get so many people on our buyers list, but they never pull the trigger. And then you get somebody like this guy who's like, I'm ready to pull the trigger. I just need some hand holding. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, partner. Perfect. Everybody wins. Or if you lose, everybody has like this limited backstop of loss,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
exactly. But yeah, it's interesting. And I think it's good that we have those. It's funny as I've been going through a lot of this stuff, like especially these deals over this past week, we were just freaking slammed trying to navigate all these, and some of them are kind of interesting too. Like we have some stuff with like land and these other kind of like more difficult deals. So our acquisition guys and our disposition guy have been working trying to like navigate them because they're a little bit less traditional. And it's kind of funny. Judd, our dispositions manager, called me the other day and he's like, oh yeah, I talked to like, these multiple people. He's like, yeah, they said they know you and they're like trying to, like they want me to like vouch for them and all this sort of stuff. And he's like, you seem to like kind of know everyone in the community. He's like, how do I go and become like that person? I was sort of asking like some guidance. He's a younger guy. And I was like, it's funny because I wanted to say this because I've been in the community for a long time, but I really haven't. I've only been investing here since 2018. Only really been involved heavily in since 2019. But I was thinking like, if anybody out there is like trying to get started and like building their reputation in the market, I think that everyone always thinks about, it's like, oh, I need to know as many people as possible to get stuff done. And that's not true. What it comes down to is you need as many people to know you as possible. Like, it doesn't matter how many people know you. The more people, how many people more people that know you, the more people will bring you opportunities.
Right.
And I think one of the best ways to do that is by either A, doing deals and like, just jumping off the cliff and figuring it out, or B, getting into a situation where you are assisting with deals in like a very literal fashion, whether that's like, you're helping people flip their houses, you're like partnering on stuff. Because I think a lot of people, what they do is they try to network by going to these things and like just chatting with people. This is what I'm trying to do. And it's like, but no one gives a shit about you.
Yeah.
If you're not actually pulling the trigger, no one wants to be involved with you at all.
Yep.
So,
and that's huge. Like, it's like people used to say like, I don't know, like what's your stack of HUDs look like, right? Like, what have you done? Because we don't care if you're a really cool guy or you got a lot of money or you got all these things, but if like you're not in the game or you're not helping produce, like what value do you bring? And like I see about like, think about it, like for us on our list, like we've got tons of people on our list and how many people have never bought a property from us, right? And so if you're a new person and you want to get on that and you want to buy some shit, like buy something and close and be easy to work with, and all of a sudden you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that guy's knows what he's doing. He's at least not an idiot, right? He closed on a deal, and makes that wholesaler's life happy because he's able to get that off the books, right? Collect the fee and get out of there. Where sometimes it's a struggle, right? But if you have a person, even if they're a newbie, and you're like, okay, well, if you're a newbie, I'm going to make you jump through a few extra hoops because I want to make sure you can close. But if you do exactly what they're asking you to do, like that's huge as far as credibility.
Yeah, exactly. And if you are in that situation, someone sends you a deal and you don't like that one, at least make like a good offer or engage heavily for the next one to show that like just that particular deal wasn't for you. Because I understand like you can be in that situation, wholesaler throws you like a crappy deal you don't like, and then you're like, it sort of goes south from there. But at the same time, I get people like that all the time who reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, I'm really looking to flip a house. I hear that you're kind of the guy that finds stuff. Like, what do you have anything coming up?" And I'm like, "Actually, yeah, we have a single family right now. Great area in the South Hill. Here's the asking price." And then, send them photos, and then I'll never hear anything again. Like, just at least tell me why you don't like it. The best way for me to never send you a deal is for you to not give me any feedback.
Yeah. But
you don't have to buy it. Just say like, "Hey, I don't like this one because X, Y, Z." I don't care.
On the flip side, if it is a janky deal, the wholesaler knows that too. Like, if you can make some shit out of it, like, and make money on it, like, you're gonna impress the dude, right? Because, like, I would say
I know, right?
most of the deals that we take down, like, obviously we get some sweetheart ones because we're spending all the money on marketing, and so we've got some pretty sweetheart deals that we just know from the beginning, like, we're like, yeah. But, like, there's a lot of them that we're just like, oh man, I guess we're gonna grind this out and make it work. Like, it's not gonna be easy.
Exactly.
Right. And it's not sexy, but we've made a lot of money on not sexy properties.
I know. That's like where most of the money comes from.
Yeah.
And I think I said, too, is people kind of wait for the lay down deals and then they complain there's no good opportunities out there. It's like, oh, no, there are. It's just you got to find them yourself because no one's going to bring them to you.
Yeah. We're buying the lay down deals, dude.
Right. Exactly. I know. It's funny. I've had several people be like, yeah, like I'm looking for this kind of flip. It's like, yeah, I've never seen you send me any like that. And I literally just say about them, like, yeah, bro, because that's why I buy those ones, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
The ones that I'm sending out are the ones that either I don't have the financial capacity for, or there's like just enough work that I don't want to commit for like 4 to 6 months to do it.
Right. Yep.
And even then, if it is like a super easy deal that I don't have the money for, I'll figure it out. Like I'll go borrow money from somebody else. I'll pull out some, take a loan from something. I don't know, like my IRA or whatever. I'm not do that yet, but I would if I needed to get the deal done.
Yep.
And I don't know. It's just interesting.
It is.
So anyway, so we got a ton coming down. I mean, if we get these 4 locked up over the weekend, I think James just texted me. Asked him for an update. Yeah, he did. I'll read his text live on the thing.
Ooh. Is there an eggplant emoji in there?
There's not. So he said one of them, he said it's done. They're just working on finding a place to go. Didn't hear back from 2 of the others, but is checking in. So didn't get a full answer. Come on, James, give me a full answer, man.
Right. He's beating around the bush.
He is, yeah. Well, he's it's a weekend. He's been working freaking hard, like most weekends, and getting after it. But that's the unfortunate thing with real estate too, is like you got to kind of work around the seller schedules.
Yeah,
which makes it challenging. But
so give me a quick rundown what I need to prepare for in December. Where are we going in the next 3 weeks as far as closings?
Yeah, that's a valid thing. So we got, I guess, 10 in escrow right now. If we get these other 4, that'll put us at 14. And there'll be 12 closings in December that we have coming up. Most of which we're assigning, but we're buying. We have that condo, the hoarder condo with all the pet waste in there. That we're going to have to be cleaning out. So that'll be a fun job. We got to cut a bathroom into that basement and finish out that basement. But we're buying that one for $150. ARVs are at low 300s, like 300 to 315 range, depending on the finishes. I imagine we'll be into it probably 60 to 70 to get it done. So it's a good spread. We should make 50 to 60 on it.
That's a perfect example of a not sexy deal.
Totally. This house is so gross. And I mean, we sent that one out to like our list, and so little interest because the house is disgusting.
Well, and it's a condo, sort of. It's like a duplex, weird thing. It looks like, it looks like shit. You got to add a bathroom, but that's where you see the extra value. Like exactly. we've made a little bit of a niche profit area, which is like, I don't know, add a bedroom, add a bathroom. And so many people, which is funny because it's very common knowledge of like, that's how you can add values, adding square feet to your property.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. I know that's kind of like our bread and butter. Yeah. So we got that to prepare for. We got the 8-unit closing. I did hear back from our loan rep that we had an issue with this where the seller, classic off-market seller, didn't have their tax returns done. for 2020 somehow, even though it is currently November of 2020.
Wow.
They had not only that, but they haven't even started working with our CPA to get their tax returns done. It's not going to happen. But I heard from our loan rep that shouldn't matter, so we should be good there. We have the lease to own little ones that we're going to be buying that we'll have to navigate. We need money for all of those. And then we potentially have this other flip on the South Hill that's kind of like a drug house, a squatter house that, like, as the people got kicked out, they like stole the furnace and the hot water heater. But the funny thing is, if you look at the photos, the person that stole the furnace obviously knew what they were doing because they did a pretty good job. Like, it was a clean removal. It's probably some contractor who was there, on his weekly bender.
He's like one of the HVAC guys I've hired before, and I'm like, what happened? It's because you stole that furnace out of your house.
Yeah. So we got those ones that we're buying, and then if we get some of these other 4 under contract, we'll be at we got a duplex coming up out in the valley that's pretty turnkey. Probably like to keep that one. And then we got a lay down, like, wholesale single family out in Coeur d'Alene that'll need some cash. That'll be closing at the end of December. And then the rest of them should all be wholesales. So I guess if we get it to 14, that will be 6 that we're closing on, and 8 that we're wholesaling. We need some money, dude.
Money. Okay, we can find it. I think. I hope.
I hope. If anybody wants to invest some money, we'll give you favorable terms.
Right. Jesus. I'm just looking at it from hours invested in these things. What do I got going on? It's a good busy, right? And so I'm kind of pumped for some of these to actually get closed and start moving forward with them, start checking them off the list. The problem is like, once I clean that off, I know there's going to be like 4 more right in front of me, which is good.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So, I mean, we hope so, right? But that is, as we go into the new year here, it'll be interesting to see how stuff goes, because we have a ton of marketing going out. I think we'll kind of be at like a similar situation where, hitting January, February, all that will start hitting, and hopefully it'll be a similar sort of situation of everything just taking off again, as people are, wanting to make their New Year's changes in their life, whatever that looks like.
Right. So. Get their gym memberships, sell their house.
Exactly. But anyway, it's about time there. Any good lessons learned this past week, Dan?
No, I don't know. It's not a horror story, but it's just kind of funny. I was thinking about, because I felt like this week was just kind of grindy for me. So not a lot of like upsets or wins or anything, but like, I haven't walked an occupied property in a while, probably since the summer. So it's kind of fun getting out and walk. Yeah, I've walked kind of like, I think Frederick is probably the last one where it was like the people are still in there with, that whole situation, which was odd, and the 40 birds that they had in there. So it's good to get out, and so these little bungalows we walked, which weren't bad. And I just walked in that one room, and you were out talking to the owner, and I was in there just for a while, just admiring. This thing was crazy. It was like a gypsy's little like wagon, like they would have all these things. I mean, every inch of that place was covered. And then I noticed like 4 torches and a burnt spoon. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I haven't seen heroin's bedroom in a while. Heroin addict. So that was kind of fun. It's just the little shit you run into that you just kind of laugh about.
I know.
It was like scary in there. Like I don't want to stay the night in that room.
Yeah. It's always super fascinating.
Yeah.
Getting into these, that is one, if you're like a nosy person, this is definitely the business for you, because you get so many people's dirty laundry. Like, you see some weird stuff.
Yeah.
You get so involved in their personal lives, and
well, what's funny though is like,
weird.
So you walk around town and you see someone and you're like, oh, they're not like the tweaker, like homeless people, but like the people that you might bump into in like a low quality grocery store. And you're like, I bet they do drugs. And then like I saw the pictures of these people, and I was like, oh, those are the kind of people you see at like Walmart. So I bet they do drugs. And then lo and behold, they do. And so it's like, you're actually connecting your intuition, those dots together as you're walking through these people's houses. It's just like, oh my God.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said that, your first instinct about how to react to an individual, if they seem like, I don't know, a little bit out of your, like the zone you're comfortable with, like, listen to your gut, because it's probably right.
Right. Exactly.
We've seen the inside of their houses. It's very probably right.
It's very accurate. Yes. Listen to your gut. That's a good lesson learned. Listen to your gut.
Yeah, seriously. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Collecting Keys Podcast. You can follow me directly at Mike_invests. You can follow Dan at InvestorMan Dan, both of us on Instagram. Go ahead and give us a follow, which is a DM. Like and subscribe to us wherever you listen to your podcasts. And actually, it would be a real help is if you enjoy this, share it with somebody else that you think might enjoy it as well. Some casual real estate talk for 30 minutes a week. And website coming soon at collectingkeyspodcast.com. Anything else, Dan?
Trust your gut, people. Trust your gut.
People. All right. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
See y'all.
Thanks for listening. Please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out at collectingkeyspodcast.com for tips and guides on starting your own real estate investment and wholesaling business.